Hi everybody, it's Gail from Gail's Bookish Things. I had a very kind request from a viewer to do a process video on how I do a Bible journaling page. So I was just thinking about that recently, and that was very nice of Kathy to comment on that because I thought, okay, well, I'll give it a whirl. Part of my hesitation on doing this in the past is that I don't plan out my pages typically. If I see an idea from somebody, I'll go ahead and get my things together and try to maybe do a similar page as they did. But generally, I just kind of go with the flow. I just kind of sit down and I do what I want to do. I don't usually think it out very much at all. And I think part of that is because the way I work, I want the Bible journaling to be an expression of worship, of giving back to God, of reflecting on a passage and, reflecting on a passage and just offering back to Him words of praise or prayer, just zooming in. And so sometimes I don't think, for me, I can't really plan that. You know, I can do a neat page and I can meditate on that while I'm doing it. And of course, God's Word is living and active, sharper than a two-edged sword, the Bible tells us. So it can work even in a situation that feels contrived to me. But essentially, this is how I do it. So I thought today what I would do is do a page in my, if you haven't seen this, let me flip over the cover. It's the Illustrating Bible. Psalms and Proverbs by Dayspring, and this is the New International Version. And it seems like I'm getting a glare from my lamp again, and it bugs me. I have a very small area to work in, so you're going to see a little more clutter than you probably normally do when you watch. But that's the space I have, and I don't have a big tripod or anything, so we will do the best of what we have. Today, my Lent reading was this passage, Psalm 73:28. This kit that I ordered is from Faith Heirlooms. You can find them on Instagram. Just look them up and there'll be a link there to their store. But they had a Lent kit that I did the printable version of. And each day I've taken elements of their set, which is the words here and these typed words, and I put them on card stock that I have already had, and I've added supplies that I've already had. Some of the, like this one, some of the florals are theirs also. But basically, I'm grouping together elements. I really liked doing these. It's just a collage-y, kind of whatever I feel like at the moment. While I'm assembling these, I will typically think of the verse and be praying for that verse to be reality in my life and those around me. So this one is Psalm 37. That was my daughter that just went by, Brooke. 73:28. But as for me, it is good to be near God. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge. I will tell of all your deeds. They give great verses. They're really all about drawing near to God, finding Him as refuge, finding Him as forgiving, and near and ready to receive our presence when we turn to Him. I thought this one was especially pertinent, though, with the whole COVID-19 thing that's on everybody's mind. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge. And then it says, I will tell of all your deeds. So, yes, that's the passage, but I like to read the verses around it because I like to get things in context. So it also said, when my heart was grieved and my spirit embittered, I was senseless and ignorant. I was a brute beast before you. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel, and afterward you will take me to glory, into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And on earth nothing I desire. And, sorry, I'm thinking of an old version. And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And so if you're watching and you're distressed, worried, concerned, that's certainly understandable. whether it's COVID-19 or countless other things, we can be comforted in that God has us. Our flesh and our heart may fail, but He's the strength of our heart and our portion forever. He is what will sustain us forever and into eternity. So that being said, I pick a verse that I want to zoom in on when I do the Bibling part, or the journaling part of reading my Bible. So I thought what I would do today, there's a couple of things. I've got this new paint, this distress paint. It's this Tim Holtz paint. It's a very watery acrylic paint. So I think I'm going to just fill the pages with color. Then what I like to do oftentimes is go back and underline or highlight the verses that I'm focusing on. So this whole passage is awesome, of course, but I might do like, I'm really drawn to verse 26 too. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart. So I might do God is the strength of my heart. Like do a 2-page spread. I will show you one I did the other day. If you're not familiar, I did this. And this is the idea I'm going to go for today. I like kind of playing around with these paints. I don't do a lot with that. I don't do enough stamping. I have stamp sets. So I like to incorporate this kind of, do you call it mixed media? I don't know. I'm really not an artist. But I guess I can always go back so and narrow down what I want to do. Another fun thing to do is to use these Neocolor 2. My daughter Brooke gave these to me. These are like a crayon. You put them on your page dry, just like a crayon. But you can also activate them with water. So that's really fun to do as well. And I've got a couple pieces of paper handy. Scrapbook paper that I probably am not going to use. So what I'm going to do is just fold those so they'll kind of stick under my edges here, and I won't get the edges, the 2 edges of each side of my Bible totally drenched. One thing, if you are new to Bible journaling, is to, you know what, it's probably better just to unfold it. Not worry about being perfectionistic. Just go with it. If things get a little messy, it's okay. I like to think of these Bibles that I'm doing as being an heirloom of sorts. I hope that it's something my kids will like to look at someday. Now they're all busy with their own things, and you know, my younger ones might say, "Oh, that's cool, Mom," or something like that. My married ones might, they're probably just too busy, or they're not into this right now, but I think someday it's going to be a fun heirloom. Okay, I just had a thought. So as you can see, you just kind of daub these down. You put it on paper. You want to get it wet pretty quickly after applying it, I noticed, because once it dries, you can't reactivate it. So I'm kind of thinking too to use this purple and this yellow. I could do sort of like an African violet color scheme, and of course some green. So you know what, why not? Let's just play around with that. That doesn't necessarily fit into these verses exactly, but if you kind of look at it as just a page embellishment, I don't think it has to always be that, you know, like everything you draw has to fit in with your passage. I'm going to put a few close together there, a few here. What I'll do when this is all dry, I'll go back then and take a marker that is water resistant, and I will write in what I want. I am just taking this here. I got these on sale, $2.47 for a pack of 3, and I think the reason they're on sale is they're slightly dry, so I'm just trying to get this going a little bit here. And I'm feeling a little bit worried, like this is going to dry really quickly. So I'm going to just do my best here. and put on some petally things. So I'm just doing a little swirl off camera. I'm just squeezing that ending there, the tip, and trying to daub a little more color. This is definitely not as purple as your typical African violet, that really deep purple that you may think of. I've actually had some African violets that have done super well that were a light pink. And this is like a shade in between. So this just doesn't really want to work real well, but it's coming out. And as I said, I'm trying to go quickly because I don't want it to get too dry before I can add some water. And with this, you don't have to. I can just let this dry. I can let this ink dry as it is, and I will go back and I'll outline in black and add some dimension with dots and metallics, maybe some washi tape, definitely underlining or highlighting the verses that I like especially, or I should say that are meaningful to me at this point. Not that I like, that's kind of silly, you know, because it's God's word. So I'm not going to do the distress paint. I feel like I don't have room for that. So what I want to do is draw in these Neocolor leaves that are sort of African violet shaped. And I'm just trying to fill in the space a little. I know that the veins of the leaf aren't quite drawn in right now, but that is something that is fun to add later. Okay, over here, I'm not sure where the edge of my page is exactly. So I'm going to do another one there in that big white space. You'll notice my style is totally laid back. Like I said, if I have to think about it too much and plan it too much, it becomes a chore, and then the joy for me is removed. Occasionally I want to copy somebody's technique that's done a video on something, you know, copying in a good way, like, oh, I want to try that, that looks fun. But generally, I have to do my own thing, or it just feels too much like work. I just want to go on the, whoops, got on my hand. I have an apron on. I'm going to just wipe it on my old apron. I just like to kind of go with the feel of the moment. With these Neocolors, they will fill in also as they get wet. So that's why, like I said, I'm not being too exact with it. And if I need to, I can go back later. But my race is a little bit against the clock, against the drying of this. So I'm going to hopefully not stick my brush in my tea, which I almost did. And let's go ahead and see what happens. I've got this tip of this brush wet. And I'm going to go and do all my yellow centers first. I do have other brushes handy, but this big one I'm liking using because it kind of lays down a lot of water at once. Sorry, I'm blocking that with my hand. I'm not used to filming, doing process videos. Usually I show stuff after I've already done it. So this is a learning experience for me. When this is all done, it will come together a little bit with the highlighting, and I'm not being too precise on, okay, here's a flower center that doesn't have leaves coming out from it. So I just think it's kind of going to blend, but if that bugs me later, and it might, I can go back and add more. I'm just grabbing another brush off camera here. I have a little cart. I can't find my really good ones. So here I'm just gonna, okay, so this may be a problem. Let me go use my other brush. That little kids one isn't doing the trick. I feel like these may have already dried a little too much. See, that's the thing. So when I daubed down the centers, the paint was thick enough Some of this is working, but a lot of it's not activating. So I may go back over it with the Neo colors. This here is working. So I had it thicker here. So if you can see, I hope I'm not blocking this. I really need to watch what I'm doing. This is coming to life. It's kind of running a little bit. These are the ones that are thinner, aren't doing as well. This thicker paint, though, is drying more slowly, and therefore it is reacting to the water. Maybe I just need more water, because this looks like that's working a little bit. One thing that may be helpful to you if you're new at this and you're hesitant to draw in a Bible or art stuff in a Bible, is to get a Bible that is your Bible for reading, and try to obtain a Bible that you would like to just try art and Bible journaling in. I know it's a thing for some people. It doesn't bother me, because to me, my perspective is it shows that the Word is alive in my life, and I'm embracing it, and I'm embellishing it, and I'm illustrating it in my very amateur way, but I'm making it my own. And I believe that God delights in our love for His Word and making it real and pertinent where we are in life. Okay, I just rinsed my brush, and I'm going to do that here. And I'm going to round that out a little so it looks a little more like the leaf of a African violet. And it's looking sloppy. And that's okay, because like I said, we're going to go back and detail in a little bit more with marker and with other inks. But I'm just trying to get this big, fun, bold splash of color. This is totally different. Colors are running together a little bit here. Now, if you, that's not bad, but I don't want it to look too much like something it's not. I'm trying to keep a little bit of the flowery look, so I'll try to avoid that. Okay, so there's that. I probably need to dry this, but just to finish that earlier thought is maybe have two Bibles. Have one that you allow yourself to be expressive in an artsy way, or with lots of extra journaling if you're not too much into paints and markers and things. And have one that's just your Bible to read and study. I'm going to try this purple a little bit more. I said that wouldn't bother me, but since I noticed it, now I'm wanting to add a few more petals. I'm not going to do a petal here. I don't really want to cover that, even though I don't like to cover the words very much. If I can still read them, I don't mind. And even though this is a Bible that I'm more, yes, I'm reading it, but then my main focus then is the art, I still prefer to have the words visible. That can be different for everybody. To each his own on that. It's whatever you feel is right for you. Go ahead and do that. Okay, we will pause here. I'm going to get out my heat tool and dry this, and then we will be back. I will show you that though in just a second. This is a heat tool. Again, if you're not familiar with some of these items, you know, everybody's at a different place of learning about equipment and so forth. I think I got this a year or two ago, an embossing heat tool. They have all kinds of brands. This is by the Paper Studio. You could use a blow dryer too. I think the point of this is that it keeps the heat more direct. A little tip, it gets very hot. Don't burn yourself on it. Don't burn yourself on this thing, on that stand. Don't touch the end when you're done. And the pages can start to brown, or some of your medium can be affected if you have the heat on it too directly for too long. So I'm going to go ahead and dry this just so that we can press on with this video. If I was just doing this on my own, I might take a break and let it dry, charge my phone, etc. Or I might go ahead and get this out. Just depends on the day and the amount of time and what I feel like doing. So I'll dry this with this, and then we'll come back. Okay, this is mostly dry. I use the heat tool, and then I use this paper napkin to blot a couple parts where the center of the flowers was not quite dry. I'm taking a purple neo color. This is called Violet, which is appropriate, African violets. I'm deciding I want to add a little dimension to this shade. Like, I'm not totally liking this pink just by itself. This is funny though, because if you look at this, I think it gives me the idea that it's going to be more purpley. It's called Seedless Preserves. That's a fun name. It's almost kind of like a raspberry or something. It's a pretty color, but I want to add a little more depth. So I'm just swirling my neo color here. Again, if I were not filming, this is something I would do. I'd be like, I don't know if I like that as well as I thought. I want to add a little bit more to it. You can have a rag or paper towel handy when you do this to blot up any moist areas that you may have missed, little damp spots that are pooling. It's just all about the creative expression. The thing that I try to keep in mind, again, when I'm doing this on my own, see here it's really pretty and dark. I guess I just blotted it a lot more deeply there. I like this a little bit darker. So I'm hoping this adds, and I may go back and add water to this. And I always get distracted. I talk like I think, if you haven't noticed. I was in the middle of a thought and interrupted myself. I said, tell you something else. Go back to point one, Gail. When you're doing this, for me, and as an encouragement to you, is to keep in mind the passage. Be meditating on the passage. So, I might, again, if I weren't filming exactly, I would have a little bit different frame of mind, but I might be thinking, Lord, thank you that you're my refuge. Thank you that during these uncertain times in the community due to the health concerns and crisis that we're experiencing, thank you that you are our refuge. We can go to you. The world may fall apart as we know it, but for those that trust in you, you are there. You will bring us into glory. You are strength of our heart. We don't need to give in to fear. Stuff can be really stinky. Stuff can be really bad, but you are almighty. And we are your children. We are your ambassadors. And Lord, let us rest in that. Let us rely on that. Let us put money where our mouth is and show the world by our kindness and our love and our peace that, yes, it's scary. Yes, we don't know. Yes, we don't like our comfortable lifestyles altered. But we serve a mighty God. And you are mighty. So that's what I want to think about. That's what I want to pray for my daughter, who is in the workforce as a nurse, and her floor has recently been turned to a COVID-19 floor. That was unexpected for her, but I want to pray for her safety and for those that she works with. And so as I'm doing a passage, and as this passage speaks to me in a certain way, then I like to turn those thoughts into prayer. I'm taking my damp brush again and trying to activate a little bit of that neo color now. Those are the crayons that I just used. I call them crayons. They're like a crayon, but like I said, water activated. And I'm kind of liking this. I think it's adding some beautiful dimension. And being not an artist, just somebody who likes to be creative. It's kind of fun. Sometimes I've learned by making some pretty horrific mistakes. I have one Bible page where I totally covered the words thinking it would show through. It just absolutely turned out awful, and usually I don't worry about it too much, but that one was really bad. It's really kind of funny now. I didn't scrape off the paint quick enough, and I put on too much paint, and I just ended up totally covering the passage that I was really wanting to focus on. Okay, so there we go. I think that's all the purple I'm going to add with these wet type of colors. Now, a thought that just occurred to me, well, let me share with you. So I could take this and I could go and add some orange in there, but I don't think I'm liking how that orange is going to look with that. So I think I'm going to stop with the Distress Paints. I'm going to dry this again, and then we'll go through, well, there's a couple options. Maybe what I want to do is add some background color is what I'm contemplating, because on that background color, let me show you again, I like to add this kind of detail. Little swirls, little X's, stamping some crosses, dots. I love to add dots of different sizes with white paint pens and with black markers, because I feel like it gives it some interesting texture and dimension, and it just makes it a much more detailed thing to look at. So you can see that that came through here a little bit. So that's something to be aware of too. I didn't even think about that. Generally, these pages have been really good about that. I think I might have gotten maybe the paint or the water a little too wet, because previously that has not been an issue. And see, it's okay here. It's crinkly. That's kind of the fun of doing this, I think. That doesn't bother me, but I don't really like that that's coming through, but it's not the end of the world. That's what I have this Bible for. Okay, another pause, and we will dry this, and I'll be back. I'm liking how this is. I just dried it, but I want to add some more brightness to the background. We just determined that that orange would not probably be the best blend. I have this springy green, and I have this, let's see, it's called yellow, surprisingly, and this is called yellow green. So I want to go around the edges with this to brighten it up. So I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to kind of scribble in there, and the cool thing is going over the lettering here kind of makes it pop. So that is a fun and good thing in my book. I'm going to go over here. Where I live today, we're having some beautiful weather. It's been super, super windy, but it's been a gorgeous day. And you know, with this social distancing, I find it interesting that people are out and about in the parks, walking around the block with their kids and their dogs and their families, and saying hello to one another. You know, some people are a little standoffish, but mostly people are just greeting one another, even from a distance. I feel like sometimes crises unify us, and we realize what's important, and so it's okay to smile at somebody even if it is a couple meters apart, and to greet somebody and to offer a smile or a cheery word or a hello, and you know, just keeping things into perspective. Okay, I like that. I like the dimension that's adding. I kind of want to add this green. It's quite a different kind of green, and these are just turning out different on paper. This one is Mowed Lawn. And is that what I did here? No, I'm second guessing myself. I think I did the Neo color there. So never mind. I was going to say that doesn't look like that. That's because it's not. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of green. Hope you're seeing this. I'm sorry if you're not. I'm going around the edge now with this bright springy green. Let me put this back in. And I'm seeing a wet spot, so I'm going to grab my napkin and dab that a little bit. That helps. I think that's what happened, why that leaked through. I just had a little too much water on it. These pages are generally pretty good. They're meant for a lot of embellishment and color, and so I wouldn't let that deter you from getting an illustrating Bible if you're looking at this brand. They have different books of the Bible, a few different ones. I'm not sure which ones. I think Luke is one. This is the Psalms and Proverbs, and I believe you can get, is there one or two others? I'm not real sure. I chose the Psalm and Proverbs one because I do love Psalms and Proverbs. There's always something there that I get a blessing from, a word of encouragement. You know, I don't know. It's been some of my favorites over the years. Okay, so there's that. I added a little edge. I'm going to do some green here. And now I'm being sloppy again because I'm going to go back over with color. One thing that you can do is, see, this adds a lot of neat dimension, is use a baby wipe. If you're having a toilet paper shortage in your world and you have baby wipes, you might not want to sacrifice one for Bible journaling. But fortunately, I have this handy dandy pack, and instead of using water this time, I'm going to activate this edge stuff because it's such a narrow spot. Just using a wipe. You could probably use a damp paper towel or a rag or something. I just usually buy a pack of wipes every several months or so to have on hand for cleaning my stamps. Okay, so I just wanted to activate this a little and not have these sharp or lines like a small child scribbled on here, which wouldn't be bad if it were a small child. Like if one of my grandchildren were here, I would say that's awesome and I would keep it just as it was. But I don't want it to look that way. I just wanted to add color. And isn't that pretty? It's already coming along. I'm going to pause this video a minute. I'm going to make sure I have enough charge, and when my phone is adequately juiced up, we'll be back. Okay, here we are back again. Got a little more charge in my phone, but I'm going to have to keep this moving. I think the next step I want to do is outline the flowers. So I'm grabbing my black markers off screen here. I have this little pouch I made of one of those kind of crinkly bags. I've seen a lot of those on YouTube, and I thought that was cool, and I wanted to try it out before I thought about spending money on buying one. Anyway, made that. That's where I keep all my pens that I use all the time. I have an IKEA cart. I usually have that by the kitchen table, and I craft just out of that, and everything's super handy that way. And I always use black pens or markers. These I love, but that's not what I need. Okay, so the Sharpies are my go-to Bible journaling pen. I have two right now. These are this style. If you're looking for something like that, I really, really like them, and they're reasonably priced. This is from the Dollar Tree, and I think it's supposed to be similar to the Unisigno pen, but sort of the off-brand. Let's start out with that. Now you could outline. You can do whatever you want. One could outline in purple, yellow. I like how black makes things pop. So I'm just going to go around and kind of outline my leaves and my flower centers. And again, I just sort of go with a non-precise look, because this would be impossible the way I've done it to outline it precisely. And I think this is really, sorry if I blocked the view there, of really just kind of fun. It's just, I don't know, very unstructured. But I think it's all going to work together. Now certainly you could do a more precise kind of painting. Take your time with it. I'm not a good painter. I just like playing with paint, really. So this is what I do. But you can see it goes really quickly. Where my leaves are, I'm going to just outline, do that center line, and then make the veins come out. And you can see really how much detail and fun just that little okay, this is now in the way. Let's move that, and let's just bend this up here so you can see. See, there I go. Distracting myself. This little bit of detail already adds a lot, don't you think? Just those veins in there going to do that over here. Going to do it a little off center. This one is not showing up, and sometimes you can really mess up your black pens trying to go over too much, kind of like a paint or crayon or the oil-based things. This is in a pack. This was from a pack. It's $1. If I mess it up, I am not going to consider that the end of the world. I'd rather mess up this one than the Sharpies that I use all the time. But I do have some other backup things. So again, I feel like this may get tedious for you watching me do this. But I'll try to hurry so I don't keep stopping and starting the camera. I have a couple kids playing outside. Our neighbor has a basketball hoop, so I'm hearing them. I hope they're keeping their distance from one another. I have a 20-year-old son recently back from Ireland who's playing some games with his brother who's in Italy. So those two countries, especially Italy, has been hit with that virus pretty bad. So I'm thankful my son's okay. At this point, he's removed from the area where the outbreak is. Okay, so that looks cool. That's added a ton of dimension. Now, one thing that I did on this, the way I did this, it's really going to be difficult to write over it. I have seen people use these Posca markers. These are white ones, and they've made words over a background in white and then highlighted those with black. I may do that. Not decided yet. But the next, because what I can do is just underline, like I said, the main things that spoke to me through this passage today. There's all kinds of good things, but you know, focus on what is especially meaningful to you at that time. So the little detail at this point that I would add is probably the dots. And I'm seeing that I have a lot of white in the background, and I'm not so sure I'm real good with that. I didn't really notice that before, so I'm going to get out my Neo Color and just add a little bit so there's not so much stark white. These are nice pages. I like the brighter color. They're a little brighter than the journaling Bibles, but I didn't like all that white showing through there because I didn't have anything else there. And let's see, I've gotten rid of my water, but I do have a little bit here right next to me in a pitcher, so I'm just gonna just real quickly touch that up. You know, you can do what you want. It's your Bible. Just have fun and enjoy the process. So there, that looks better to me. So now I'm going to take, for example, well, let's start with one of these greens. These are these Faber-Castell Pitt pens. The B is for the brush tip or nib. So, you know, any of these might work for some little dots to add texture. This is a deeper green, but it's not always my favorite green, but I don't know if that's gonna clash. So I think I'm gonna go with this or this sparkly jelly roll pen that is in some kind of green. It doesn't specify. And also I have purple ones that I'm going to do that with. So I'll probably add my little dots with black, purple, and green, and some white ones. These come in a variety of sizes. This is the 2.5 millimeter, but there are other sizes that came with the kit that I got, or the little set. So what I do is I find little corner spots and I just add a few dots. Generally, you know, they say uneven numbers, but that I was sloppy up. Don't worry about counting it, because then it's gonna look contrived also. So just add your little dots of interest here and there. And the best way to do that is really a light touch. I'm having a little bit of a sloppy time here because the pages are getting crinkly and I'm trying to hurry. so I'm not keeping you too long in this video. But if you are watching, I hope you're crafting along or enjoying one of your favorite hot drinks. You know, sometimes just those relaxing times and watching somebody create something is very, I don't know, soothing, relaxing, fun, motivating. I think I like that. I'm going to just fill in. Ooh, now I'm liking the dimension that this purple adds to some of my flower leaves, so I think I'm going to kind of go through and do that. As you can see, this process video is a kind of whatever's going to happen video. So maybe, you know, I guess I'm just trying to show, do whatever seems fun and creative and allows you to meditate on the word there. Go ahead and do that. I mean, I could sit and Bible journal all day long. I have to make myself get up and do things like, okay, I do have a family at home still. So this adds a little sparkle. I love these pens. These are some of my favorite things that I happened upon by accident, but they're Pentel Sparkle Pop Bold. And I love them. I love them. I use them all the time. Okay, so I've added purple dots. Now I want to go back and add. See, I was kind of sloppy and in a hurry, and they smudged. That's not the end of the world, but I like to have a nice little round dot. And so if I just use the very tip of the pen and just kind of randomly add a few here and there, for some reason, to me, this just makes the page look kind of aged, textured. Just adds depth, and I'm all about detail and stuff. Sometimes in a corner like this, I'll add a little bit more. I just think it kind of like, you focus there, it comes out, and it just seems like a good spot to do that. Also with this is knowing when to stop. Not always my forte, or fort, or however you're technically supposed to say it. Okay, but that seems good. So do you see that? Do you like that? I really do. I like how the dots add dimension. And I almost always, if not always, add black, or depending on what I'm doing, some white. So I want to show you with the white. This is the tip on this one. That'll work just fine. I like to, I have it on a piece of paper up here, but I'm just dabbing it to get the ink flowing before I attempt to do it on my paper, because when it sits for a while, it can kind of start to pool. So let's do a few white dots and see how we like that. This may be hard to see on the screen because it's a little bit hard to see here. I don't have real dark backgrounds anywhere, so it's not necessarily showing up very well. I'll get some on the edges here. But when my background pages have a little deeper color, this white is a fun pop of color. Okay, yeah, it's working pretty well now. I'm quite happy with that. Another thing I could do is use one of these white markers to, if I want to accentuate, like say the veins and the leaves or something, I can do that. I can take this and go back and add that. Since this is the center of the flower, adding a little shadowing, dot shadowing, I think might be good. Let's see how we like that. Maybe a little bit all over. Or kind of randomly. It's kind of turning into a bunch of speckles. I don't know that that's the greatest thing. Another thing too with this paint centered inside of the flower, these little yellow dots I'm filling in, you could go over that with a Neocolor or a watercolor. I did it with the Distress inks, if you remember. We started out with it at the beginning, but you can also add a layering effect. So I could do the Neo colors over that and dampen it, and then that would add a little bit more of a murky thing. So the point, at this point, my last decision is if I want to try to write over these flowers. I've been having mixed success with these lately. I don't know if they're getting old, if the ink is starting to get runny, but I have seen people do that, and it looks amazing. It just looks like the letters were set down on the page. You would write with this, then you would outline it carefully with black. But I think we will just end with using a Sharpie. You can use a color. I always prefer generally to use black, so I'm going to underline, and hopefully this pen won't give out under all this drawing through all these previous layers. When my heart was grieved and my spirit embittered, I was senseless and ignorant. I was a brute beast before you. Yet I am always with you. You hold me by my right hand. You guide me with your counsel. And afterward you will take me into glory. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth is nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever. And then I'm skipping down to, but as for me, it is good to be near to God. I have made the sovereign Lord my refuge. I will tell of all your deeds. I'm sure all of you out there watching that have made the sovereign Lord your refuge can speak of his deeds, and that is what we want to do. I see another dot here. So I think adding all these dots to the center has made this look like a bunch of little circles. This looks more flowery. This does. Some of this looks a little more random. So I think it's neat. I like it. But I may go back and add something to that. Let me show you what I mean. Like just a little, yeah, a little like hash. What do you call that? It's like a hashtag, but it's more. I think I need to get away from all the dots. So I'm going to wrap up with that. I'll finish those up. And you can see, I think that looks a little bit better. So there's my first process video. Hoping that this was fun, but really that it inspires you to get out your Bible or notebook and try some Bible journaling, Bible art journaling, whatever you're comfortable with, try it. It just makes the scripture come alive. I love watching people do these because I'm always like, okay, I need to get my Bible out and I want to see what God's saying to me and I want to just have fun with this. So there. I hope that was fun. Thanks for joining me and we'll see you next time. Bye.